Hi everyone and Servus, as we say here in Bavaria. Welcome to our Neco Community Conference. This is the first conference in a series of quarterly conferences, which I want to install as a regular conference call for us to, as a community, to come together, for me to present our quarterly reports and explain the numbers and anything that's come up, and talk about our roadmap. Yeah, very important question I get from a lot of people is where are we and how long does it take for the app and so on. So this is the opportunity to get an update on that. And last but not least, this conference is also a place for you guys to join and ask questions and for me to come up with answers as long as I have them. So as a kind of call to get together and to get to know each other as well. We're still a small community, but growing. So this is the opportunity to meet each other and to exchange ideas and to ask questions. Recently, we released our third quarterly report of 2022. It was another record quarter, the fourth consecutive record quarter in a row. We now have the highest reserve level ever, and the price is at an all-time high of currently 76 cents. We're expecting another increase on October 15th after the current collector regulation is complete. So this is very good news, especially in times like these, in my opinion, the most challenging times I've ever experienced in my life. We've had a global pandemic. We are experiencing a war in Europe, and we're seeing inflation rates of over 10%. So this is a really critical situation in time. The current system, in my opinion, is collapsing, not unexpectedly. And on the other side, Neko is delivering very consistently stable and positive results. So that's a very good sign for me that our system is working as designed and can deliver positive results even in challenging times. So let's go into more detail about our results. As you know, transparency is one of our core values. Accordingly, we publish a monthly report every month with the major details like our dashboard, the market, and our reserves. And every quarter, the quarterly report with more details, where we also talk about revenue, membership, and other figures. The dashboard is, in my opinion, one of the most important sources of information. It contains all our key performance indicator. We see here on the top left the Neko price at 76 cents right now. It's almost 70% increase from the last quarter. What is really interesting is our price potential. This is kind of a future outlook indicator that kind of gives you an idea where the Neko price could be in about a year or so. Currently, that's €1.27, an increase of almost 67%. The price potential, how do we calculate it? It's the maximum price attainable at a 10% reserve rate. So this would be the maximum price that the Neko could already have at this very moment. However, because collector is quite conservative and we keep a certain amount in our reserve buffer all the time and keep our reserve rate higher than just 10%, the current price is actually lower. That's a good opportunity to buy, because what it means is the Neko is undervalued and you can expect it to increase in the future. So it gives our currency this predictability that most other cryptocurrencies lack. You know, it's hard to predict the price of like Bitcoin and Ethereum. They're very volatile, but it's really easy to predict the price of the Neko with our indicators. In the side, you see our price development over the last almost 3 years, very positive line. And we're seeing actually an accelerated growth in the last quarters and in this year. That's also a very good sign. Our annual earnings are currently at 46%, but we're expecting this to go up with the next price increase, October 15th. And we'll see for the first time an annual profitability of over 50%. Another very good sign. Our reserve rate is currently at almost 17%. That's very good. As you know, the minimum is 10%. And if the reserve rate is above 12%, that means the price can actually go up. So this is there. This reserve is very important. It gives us stability. It prevents bubbles. because the price can only go up when there is more reserve. So the value of the token increase because there's more reserve to back it up. And this avoids bubbles as we see in many other markets. And then here below is our maximum UBI allowance. It's the maximum universal basic income a person can receive per month, currently at 1,500 Neko at Karma level 10. That's over 1,000 euros per month. And it depends on the Karma level. If your Karma level is 1, then it's a tenth of it, so 150 Neko per month per person. And the maximum carbon offset, that's our carbon offset goal. So that's the budget we have to offset the carbon footprint of our community. Almost 5,000 tons in this quarter. That's quite a lot. It's much more than our community actually emits, about 3 times what we emit. If we were able to offset all of this, use all of this budget, then we would actually be a carbon negative community. Unfortunately, we're still in prototype. We're testing it with one partner. They have limited capacity, so we have a lot of money, but the capacity is limited. So the actual amount of carbon that has been offset is less than our goal. But we're working towards making this possible. And then last but not least, a triple bottom line. That's the combination of the profit we generate for our users. Profit comes from increasing the value of the currency. Planet, that's the amount of money we use for carbon offset. And people, that's the amount of money we've used or issued as universal basic income in a certain quarter. The triple bottom line is our measurement for impact. All these numbers that you see here are in comparison to our previous quarter. So we measure our development on a quarterly basis, not on a day-to-day or month-to-month basis. So all these numbers compare to the previous quarter, the second quarter. Now, when we look at the market, this is a chart that we also update on a monthly and quarterly basis, where we compare Neko against the major players in our market. And in terms of, the major players are, of course, fiat, the euro, all the major cryptocurrencies, and last but not least, gold. And we look at these currencies from the perspective of profitability over the last 12 months, where you can see the difference. The only other currency or the only other asset that has been profitable over the last 12 months is gold. All the others have lost value, especially the euro, where we've seen a huge inflation, and we're expecting this to probably get even worse next year. So this is just an indicator of profitability. I'm actually a bit surprised that we're doing so well, because we've designed Neko more for stability and security than maximum profitability, but we're doing really good. Number one in this chart. Stability, one of our core values, where we measure the monthly volatility, so the average monthly change. And here Neko is very similar to the euro, so very little change on a monthly basis. This is because we only update the price once per month. This is a main mechanism that reduces the volatility. And if you compare that to other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin with like 30% or Ethereum with over 40% average monthly volatility, there's a huge difference. And that's very important for currencies to be stable and low in volatility. And then security is how that we measure the maximum loss that you could have had with in investment in that currency. And so we're the only cryptocurrency or the only currency out there that has never lost value. Market cap, this is the potential. You see what the other currencies have in terms of market cap. We are not there. Obviously, we are still in private sales. We are not public yet. So we are still limited by this limit of maximum of 500 investors that we can have until we get the license and we go public. And I'm going to talk about this later when we speak about the roadmap. One of the most important things for Neko is the reserve. The reserve is a fractional reserve backing up our currency with fiat currencies, currently euro, dollar, and pound. So what you see in this chart is the reserve in absolute numbers has constantly increased. And we had another record in this quarter. And this line over there is the relative number. That's the reserve rate, which is the the ratio between the Neko money supply and the reserve. The challenge we have had recently, or the situation we've been facing recently, is the weakness of the euro. So as you've seen before, the euro lost, almost 20% over the last 12 months in value compared to the United States dollar. And as a result, what we have done is we have shifted most of our reserves from the euro into the dollar, and a few in the pound, but the pound is actually doing, the performance of the pound is actually worse than the euro. So what this means is that we have shifted a bit more into a more stable currency like the US dollar. And we'll probably add a few more in future, like the Swiss franc, which has performed even better. But this allows us to react to changes, like a weakness of one currency we can deal with by moving to other currencies. So overall, this strategy has helped to actually increase the value of the reserve, because the US dollar has gone up compared to the euro over the last months. I'm going to skip budgets. So this is what the budgets that were remaining after the quarter. So most of the budget is still left. As I said in the beginning, we have more budget that we can actually use on the planet side and the reserve side. And there's also plenty of budget left for people. So the issue is not that we don't have enough money. It's we don't have the capacity to do all these things that we have the money for. Money supply, that's how much money is in circulation. We are close to reaching the 3 million Neko tokens limit very soon, probably next month. And you see here a stable growth in money supply. And this is our market capitalization, where we have just passed the $2 million mark. Revenue, for you to understand what is revenue, revenue is from the perspective of the company. So whenever we sell Neko tokens, so when you guys buy Neko tokens, that's a revenue for the company. We have two sources right now. One is token sales from the Neko token, and then the other one is donations, like when you pay free tax or when you donate to our nonprofit. This is what we count as revenue. In future, there will also be stack chain and access to additional tokens and to additional sources of revenue. So you see that in our forecast, for example. Members have been increasing, so we are over 600 now. There's a 500 member limit for legal reasons. In private sales, we cannot invite more than 500 members, 500 investors. So the number here is the total number, but we only count active members, and right now there's only 407. So there's still a bit of room left. But so this is important for you guys to understand. We are reaching our limit in terms of members for this private sales stage. That's why it's important to get to the next stage to go public, because then this limit will be removed. But this is a limit that is there for legal reasons. So when you invite people to join Neko, try to invite people who really support us, because we are growing lower and lower in terms of available spaces in our prototype. Yeah, community happiness, nothing new. That's the latest. We decided to do this community happiness survey only once a year now. Previously, we thought we'd do it every 6 months. So to get the summer and the winter blues into the calculation, but the difference is not that big, so we decided to do it once a year. It's a long survey, and we don't want to bother people with asking the same questions over and over again. All right, so this is pretty much it for the report. The next part would be the roadmap, which will take a bit more time. So I'm gonna take a quick break and stop sharing and give people the opportunity to ask questions, and also look at the chat. If there's anything that you want to know. So if you have any questions regarding the report, the quarterly report, then feel free to raise them now. Raise your hand, and I can unmute yourself. Okay. No questions? Yeah, raise. Okay, Tobias, hold on. Raise your hand in the tool. Here you go. Tobias?
Ja, okay.
Yeah,
Ich habe
perfect.
folgende Frage. Die Reserve.
In English, if possible.
Oh, I have the question that the reserve that you hold, in what kind, or what do you do with the reserve? What does that mean, and how is it used in your system?
Yes, very good question. So right now, the reserve is a decentralized reserve that consists of a couple of bank accounts with different banks and different currencies owned by different companies. So it's a decentralized reserve, and the number you see is simply the sum of all our fiat bank accounts. Currently, we don't use it for anything else. We want to invest the 10% minimum reserve because we're probably not going to use it anyway. We don't need it, just sitting there. And we want to invest it into sustainable assets, which we can liquidate shortly. So we have access, not a long-term investment, shortly. So if we need the money, we can get it back. That also generate some profit, ideally, but most of all, that are sustainable. Why we haven't done this so far? Simply for the reason that it is still unclear how much money we will now need for obtaining all the legal licenses. And I'm going to talk about this issue later. This is currently the thing that keeps slowing us down, as we don't know where we will be and how much money we will need to get the next level, the crypto license, right? And that's why we haven't invested it yet. But the idea is that at least the 10%, the minimum reserve that we usually don't touch at all, will be invested. So it generates profits, but also does good in the world. And the other 5-6%, they will just remain there as a liquidity pool, because we need the reserve to exchange tokens. So whenever you sell your Neko tokens, you get money from our reserve, and vice versa. Very good question. Thank you, Tobias. Okay, Günther. Yep.
You planned to have an ICO end of this year, but before the ICO, you wanted to get a professional investor for 1 million. Does this plan change a little bit? Or
yeah, this is exactly the next topic, roadmap.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about this, in a minute. Okay, any other questions that are not related to roadmap? Tobias?
I have a question around you on your charts. You had planet. You have planet, certain amount planet.
Yeah.
And I do not understand what does that mean. What does that mean in terms of security? So how does that interact? I don't understand that.
So did you mean planet is part of the triple bottom line chart? This chart where it says triple bottom line, people, plan, profit?
Yeah, yeah.
So triple bottom line, that's how we measure our impact. So we have two major performance indicators. One is our impact measured in the triple bottom line, and one is our happiness measured in the community happiness index. So these are the two indicators that drive our mission. And so the triple bottom line is simply the combination of the profit we've generated in a quarter, the amount of UBI we have provided, that's what we call people, and then planet, that's the amount of money we have given to offset the carbon footprint. And it's the actual amount that we've used. There's a difference between the budget. The budget was much higher, but we could only use in this quarter only like 10,000 Neko, because the limited capacity we currently have with our partners. And this together, people, planet, profit, creates what we consider the triple bottom line, which was roughly 500,000 Neko in this quarter.
Okay.
Cyril.
Hey, thank you. Quick question regarding the minimum reserve, the 10%. As far as I understand, these 10% is that Neko finances can keep running, for example, if there are no Nekos kind of left. Now that the fiat money is devaluating itself with the inflation, are you still planning to hold on the 10% line? Because 10% with less value of money, is it still enough for Neko to continue?
Yeah.
Or
10% is more than enough. So in the banking system, their reserve is about 1 to 5%. So we said from the beginning we want to have at least double. Now we are over 3 times with over almost 17%. So the minimum with 10% seems to be a really good number, and I don't see any need to change it. As said, the inflation hits all of us. Price inflation is something we cannot avoid. The prices go up, and whether they are in euros or dollars or even in Neko, I can't change that the prices are going up. What we can do is be more profitable, increase the price of the Neko to kind of compensate for the inflation. And specifically with the weakness of the euro, what we have done is we moved away from the euro and to United States dollar, which is stable. And then when we have more money in the States dollar, what actually happens is our reserve goes up in value. So because we measure it in euro, right? So it has actually increased. The change towards dollar has led to an increase of our reserve compared to the euro. So, still the problem isn't solved. There's price inflation that's happening. We cannot change it. But what we have done is we have made sure that it doesn't affect us so much. And in the end, it has actually, because we changed the dollar, it has contributed to an increase in our reserve. All right, Günther, one more question. You're still muted.
I just wanted to add some aspect. It's up to us as a community to decide how much of the reserve, the amount of the reserve that is higher than 10%, we really want to spend on the triple bottom line. And in fact, we are very conservative until now.
Yes.
So we probably will stay at 15% even after October 15th.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And you bring a really good point. Colexa is quite conservative, way more conservative than I would be. And when I talk about Colexa, I often say to people, actually Colexa already, like even though it's still small, like our community is still small, is already has made better decisions that I would have done over the past. Being more conservative, anticipating problems. Right now feels the same. The Colexa seems to be anticipating a crisis coming, and so they are more moving towards more reserve. With every regulation, we can collectively decide if we want to increase the reserve by keeping more in reserve and less profit and less for people and less for the planet, which is great. It's also important because right now, so far our expenses were quite low, but now we are sizing up the team and we have to do expensive legal things and long-term license processes. So we probably need a lot of money in the next few months to go through all these processes, the legal processes. So it's very good that we keep more money in reserve. So, and this is the great thing about Colexa. I always tell people, like, our price wouldn't be as stable if we didn't have Colexa that is conservative and keeps plenty of buffer in reserve for, times when we need the money. Very good question. Any other questions? All right, cool. Then I'm gonna continue with the presentation, which is the next one will be about the roadmap. So, as you probably know, we had planned to do the Neko ICO this year. And I can already tell you it's not going to happen. And I want to explain why. So right now, we're in the build stage. And the build stage means we are setting up this company for the public offer. And we want to make sure we have a solid foundation, legally, financially, but also technically. Things are tested. So Neko is my 5th business. And with my last one, Data Scout, I made the experience this, what every founder loves to have, like exponential growth. And I've also experienced the negative side of it. So when you grow so quickly and so fast, and the product isn't ready, and you have lots of customers, and the team isn't ready, then you end up in a difficult situation. And I had this 10 years ago. It ended in a burnout for me, and we lost some reputation with our clients because the product wasn't ready. and our team wasn't able to deal with so much business coming in. So this is why with Neko, I decided to go slower. Our values are not speed. Our values are sustainability and stability. So we need to make sure we have a solid foundation. So what's taking so long? People ask me, when's the app available? It's like, I can't answer this question because that's not even on my focus right now. Building an app is nothing special. Everyone can do this. It takes 3 to 6 months. It costs like 50,000, maybe 100,000. Easy. Nothing I really worry about. What keeps me up awake right now is regulation and tax. And so to understand, crypto is something new. And whenever governments are confronted with something new, then they typically act like a bunch of scared chicken and run in all different directions. So one country does this, one country does this, instead of coming together and like proper Homo sapiens, wise humans, and coming up with a joint decision that is valid for everyone. So this happened not just with Corona, but also with crypto. In all countries, we have different regulations right now. And they can't even agree on terminology. So the Neko, for example, would be classified in Germany as a payment token. In Malta, they classified it as a virtual token. And in Switzerland, they classified it as a hybrid security and payment token. And so every country has their own regulation. We would need to obtain different licenses in every country that we want to sell. And Neko is very complex. We have not just one token, we have 4. We have the Neko, we have Karma, and then in future we have Steckchain and Colexa. So we need to factor this in. So imagine 4 tokens. For each of those tokens, we would need to obtain a license, which takes like up to a year or maybe even longer, costs 100,000, maybe more. And we would have to do this 4 times over 60 countries. Well, we would be busy for the next decade, just getting the licenses. In the meantime, the licenses will probably change. So this is the situation we have. All these countries having different regulations. And the good news is finally the European Union has decided to change this. And they came out with a new regulation called the MiCA, which will be effective next year. So we'll start to go into effect next year, which harmonizes and standardizes the processes for crypto legalization in all of the European Union. So this law finally makes it a lot easier for us to obtain a license. We will only need to obtain it once in one country, and then we can use that license all over Europe. The second challenge is tax. It's the tax legislation is something that frustrates me sometimes, because I believe what we do with universal basic income and carbon offset, this is something that the government should do. So we are doing it for the government because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And they should support us, but it's the opposite. They actually tax us, so they want money. And the issue here is that on every token that we sell, the government can take a certain percentage through corporate income tax, right? And in Germany, the corporate income tax, as you probably know, is 25%, which means the German government could take 25% of the value of every Neko token that we sell. And we have a reserve, which is 15%. Now the government doesn't accept payment in Neko. We have to pay in euros. So that would require more than we actually have in reserve to pay in tax. So that's why Germany, for example, wouldn't work too high taxes. So we looked at Malta. Malta had a very good, a very decent crypto regulation. They were one of the first countries to do this. Also, the tax rate, the 5% is quite acceptable. But unfortunately, the government is one of the most corrupt governments in all of Europe, and their banking system has the lowest ranking of all European countries. So unfortunately, that's not really the right place for Neko. So then we looked at Switzerland. And and unfortunately, even though Switzerland, it's a very stable country, it's aligned with our values, very decentralized, works perfectly with what we would do. Unfortunately, it is still too expensive, and the legal effort required to obtain the licenses, it would take us 2 years minimum to get there. And so I got this news last week, so we're still looking at a jurisdiction. Currently, with the new regulation coming out in Europe, we're looking at Estonia. That looks pretty good from a tax and regulation perspective. But this is, this is the background why we haven't even started with developing the app. Because as long as we haven't set up our legal foundation, and as long as we don't have the crypto licenses and the approval from the financial authorities that we are non-profit, also these activities, they need to be approved. And it can take 6 months, it can take 12 months. So this is where we're currently at. And since we haven't come to Switzerland, kind of was ruled out because of these issues, I have now decided that we will postpone the ICO to next year. We're looking at Estonia as the preferred country right now, so we're investigating that. And we hope that the new regulation of the European Union regarding crypto will make things a lot easier. Yeah, and on a quarterly basis, when we have these calls, I'll give you an update. So right now, because things are still not clear, the only thing I can do is give you a new date. It will be next year, probably end of next year, but that still isn't pretty sure. Right? So please, in the meantime, ask you to remain patient. The system still works. We're generating profits. It's stable, so the system works, but it will take a while for us so we can start with the development of the app. And then we want to make sure we test it. So we will invite you guys to a prototype, a beta testing. So you get to test our app and give us feedback. And only when we feel our team is ready, the legal foundation is set up, and the software is developed, tested, and stable, then we will decide to go public. Because I believe that once we go public, we will grow very quickly. And so it is important for us to be ready for this. I don't want to run into the same issue that I've experienced 10 years ago with my previous company, where things weren't ready and then demand picked up. And it's super important for me to have a team of, I call it Champions League players. I believe that Neko will be playing in the Champions League of crypto. We're already there in terms of our performance, as you've seen before. We're not there in terms of market capitalization yet. So I believe we will play in that league. And that's why I want to have a team with players who are experienced and competent to bring this mission forward. Okay. One good news is here. These are the stages again. We have increased. We haven't completed the funding for this stage. We want to achieve 1 million. Günther, coming back to your question, we are 30%. So we have raised in this round, we have raised 300,000 euros so far. Thank you for that. We haven't brought in any impact investors yet. Why? Because we're still in Germany right now. We're operating under Germany. And if we get in 1 million from an impact investor in Germany, 25% of that would go to our government, which is currently investing that money in war, which is not what we support. So I would prefer to set up the license in Estonia or maybe interim in the Czech Republic and raise the money in these countries where we can keep more of the money and don't have to give so much money to our government. Okay. So this is why we've also held back with investors. We have a few impact investors who are just waiting for us to set up the foundation, but I asked them to be patient as well. Once we have figured out where to put our headquarters and also the tax situation, we will accept more money. Okay, so here at the end of the report, you find this section called risks. And you see it's a long, long list. Doing crypto at the moment is a challenging activity. Governments look at us as, could be something illegal. So we get audited by the German government on a regular basis. So far, all of them successful. We're doing a good job. Banks don't want to work with us. So most banks wouldn't open a bank account because we do crypto. So they are kind of, boycotting us. So these are things we have to deal with. And then taxation is constantly changing. We're working with a completely new technology. So I hope, just to give you an understanding, Neko is not just a cryptocurrency, it's a huge project. So there's a way more complexity. That's why things take time. And we take time to make sure everything is stable. There's no need for us to go fast. We rather want to go slow, but want to make sure things are working properly and are tested. All right, thank you for your attention. That was the report. I'm gonna close this part, and now we have the discussion, questions and answers. So again, if you want to speak, raise your hand, but in the tool, you don't see, if you're waving, I might not see it here in Zoom. Click on raise hand, and I will unmute you to start speaking. So I'm going to start from top. Ask to unmute. So Mr. M. Hello, M. The question?
Sorry, ich hab Servus Christi.
Servus.
Manu.
You're M. Okay.
Nick Singh, schön dich hier zu sehen und danke Hansi, dass du nur mal erinnert hast, dass das gerade stattfindet. Ich bin gerade vor kurzem reingeschlittert. Schnelle Frage, wir haben ein ähnliches Problem.
Could you say it in English, please? We all, we try to keep it in English.
Okay,
Awesome.
English, no problem. So quick question, we have the same problem with the jurisdiction, the taxes, etc., and being crypto company. You know what we do, so I don't have to explain things and don't bore all the other people and distract from your presentation. What about Liechtenstein and Canton Zug in Switzerland? Have you done your research on that?
Yes, we have. Zug is, as you know, Crypto Valley. They are also one of the cantons who actually accept crypto for tax payment. So that was where we actually wanted to headquarter. The issue is, the token classification as security token would require a lot of overhead. This was the reason why we couldn't do Switzerland. And also, still in Zug, with the lowest tax rate, you end up with a tax of around 12%. So keep in mind, we have our reserve, and we cannot assume that Zug will accept Neko as payment. So we have to assume we have to pay in fiat. And if they take 12%, out of our reserve from what's currently 17%, and 5% is left over for us, which is less than the 10% minimum. So this is why it doesn't work. So Estonia has, it looks on, if you look at Estonia corporate income tax 20%, it's like, okay, this doesn't work. But if you look at the detail, it's tax-free. You have no corporate income tax as long as you do not distribute profits. And that's what we do. We always keep the profits in the reserve. We're not distributing them. So in Estonia, we might go completely tax-free. So this is the thing we're currently analyzing. And the big advantage of Estonia now, Estonia is part of the EU. So we can get what's called EU passport, means we get a license in Estonia, we can serve all European countries. Switzerland is not part of this scheme. Switzerland has their own regulation. And right now that's even more complicated and more expensive than what the EU is proposing. I'm really surprised because normally EU is, in terms of regulation, one of the worst, most expensive and slowest. But here it seems like it's actually better than Switzerland. And we believe that Switzerland might, once the EU has implemented their system, might take a few years, but then they will copy what the European Union has done.
Mm-hmm. And Liechtenstein?
Liechtenstein, yeah, they're also pretty good. Same thing, tax. We haven't looked into too much detail. The difficulty with Liechtenstein, it's a very small country. It's more like a village than a country. Right. And it has, it's also not part of the European Union. It's the EEA, but not EU.
Right.
Yeah, so it's another option that is out there. Right now, it feels like Estonia could be a better place. Estonia is also the leading country in terms of e-government. So everything there is electronic. That means everything can be done remotely.
Right.
And yeah, they're very modern in terms of the way the government works.
Yeah, we looked into Estonia and I know about that. If you do want to do some more research on Liechtenstein, I have a really good contact with Haifa.
Yeah.
And Seeds, the Haifa DAO organization tool, those guys. So
cool, yeah.
I got somebody in Liechtenstein I'd love to introduce to you, and then you can talk shop. And
Yeah, please. It would be interesting. I would like to do this too. To analyze Liechtenstein.
Yeah, we'll be in touch on Telegram.
Perfect.
I already said hi, so just so
Okay.
you can find me there. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you for the question. Next, Sebastian.
No, thank you for your presentation. I would have a question. If you could please explain what is the difference between these three ICOs. You mentioned the Neko ICO, the Codexa ICO, and the Stackchain ICO.
Yeah. Very good question. I'm going to share my screen to answer your question. Okay. So our portfolio consists of 3 products. Neko is the first one, and the only product that's already live. It's our currency token, free, stable, and positive. And we use Neko. You can see Neko as a kind of a green alternative to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is what we consider our main competitor in that market. Bitcoin is the #1 cryptocurrency out there. So Neko is a currency token or a payment token, so you can use it to pay globally, no transaction fees, no interest, no debt, and no inflation. Then the other token we have is Stackchain. The Stackchain is our platform. We developed it because blockchain was too inefficient initially. So we looked at, can we do something better, something that is carbon neutral and that has a better architecture and scales, has a higher performance, but also higher security. So this idea became a product, Stackchain, which we're currently using internally and want to bring out on the market. So imagine Stackchain like a competitor to Ethereum. Ethereum is also a platform where all kinds of companies or groups can create their own tokens or their own smart contracts and do their own crypto. So it's a platform, not just a currency. And so Stackchain will be released as a separate ICO. It's a different type of token. It's a utility token. So it's a token, you buy this token to use our platform. And who would buy this? It would be companies who want to use it for their own tokens or companies who want to decentralize their IT infrastructure. So the revenue from this token will also feed into the Neko reserve. So all the revenue we make in the Stackchain will also help the Neko to go up and our system to grow and expand. Right? So the revenue will increase our triple bottom. And last but not least, Colexa. So Colexa, as you know, is our collective intelligence. We use it to do collective governance, like right now, where we run our Colexa referendum to regulate the price and the budgets. And we also use it to access the wisdom of the crowd. For example, we measure happiness using Colexa, or we run certain surveys that help us answer certain questions. Again, we're using this internally now, but we want to bring this out as a platform. And that's a completely new space. You hear a lot about AI, artificial intelligence, lots of projects, Alexa, for example, or Siri. But people don't seem to see that there's another form of intelligence, which is collective intelligence. There's not much out there. Wikipedia is a kind of form of collective intelligence, and Google has some parts of collective intelligence, but there's no proper collective intelligence as a tool, as a platform. So this is what we want to do with Colexa. It's a utility token, so people can use it like a survey system to access Colexa and either get questions answered or decide things, do a referendum, do a petition, do a survey, do a forecast using our platform. And the revenue from Colexa will also feed into the Neko reserve, strengthening our reserve, increasing the value of the Neko, and expanding our financial system. Okay. You're still muted, Sebastian. Yeah. I cannot. Yeah, I didn't mute you. Hold on, I have to find you. Sebastian. I can't even see you in my list anymore. Hold on. Here. Okay, got you. Try again.
Thank you, Flo. How will the product Colexa will feel like? How will you get it working? Because if you just provide the service, answering questions or providing the Colexa intelligence, you must secure that Colexa works, that the people, the collective intelligence is active.
Yeah.
Could you just explain how it will be done?
Yeah. So Colexa will provide on a technical basis different methods that you can use for collective intelligence. Like could be a method, for example, systemic consenting, which could be a tool to resolve issues like corona regulation. So you find a solution where the majority of people in a community can agree with, would create solutions that have less resistance in populations. It will help tremendously in politics when we address things, global problems like corona. Yeah? So we could, with Colexa, we could provide solutions and then come to global agreements, how we deal with certain things. We have global problems, we have to think of global solutions and not have every government do something else. So we would first do a global consensus where we agree how we want to deal with a problem like climate change. And then we can submit petitions to governments and say, this is how we want to do this. This is what we have agreed on. And the more people we have on our platform, the bigger our voice will get.
Yeah, that's quite
examples
clear.
are.
I think technically, I understand how it's working, but how would you get the people on voting? How do you?
Yeah, everyone who is a Neko user will be a member of Colexa, and there will be an incentive, a financial incentive. So if you respond to a survey, like you do with our Community Happiness Index, you receive money in Neko. So how do it work? Like companies, let's say external companies, your company wants to do a survey. So you would have to buy a Colexa token. The price of the Colexa token will be actually regulated by Colexa.
Right.
And with that token, you can run a survey into our database and survey people who are interested in responding. And the people would get paid in Neko for responding. Yeah. And so the more we do surveys, Colexa gets smarter and smarter because we build upon the knowledge. And we can address issues. We can do forecasts for companies so they can get a good forecast for what's happening. And we can regulate things like prices. Like a good example is the next survey that we will do is we will regulate the carbon price. Currently it's 20 euros per ton. We've had this for a couple of years. Now we probably have to raise it a little bit. So this is a challenge that we globally have. No country, they haven't figured out what the carbon price is. And most of the voluntary markets, they have carbon prices of $4 something. It's way too low. And there's no global carbon price. So one use case for Colexa would be to agree on a global carbon price. We do this internally, but the more people follow our system, the bigger our voice will get. And then other countries might actually listen to what we do. And politicians can use this platform to really find out what their constituents want. Because that's a big problem right now with our democracy. The politicians or the people who are supposed to be representatives don't even know the opinion of the people they should represent. So this could close this gap between the people and politics and become like a global parliament where we can make global decisions and address global issues collectively.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys, any more questions? I don't see any more hands. Yeah, Tobias. Yeah, you have to find this button, otherwise I can't see you when you're waving. Tobias, go ahead.
Okay, I I need to understand how you measure your carbon offset. I didn't get that.
How we measure our carbon offset. So the number you see on our dashboard is the maximum carbon offset. So this is more or less the budget we have divided by the price, which is currently 20 euros per ton, right? So this is the maximum that we can offset. And then every month or every quarter, we transfer a certain amount to our partners who do carbon offset. So what they do is they plant trees, currently in Indonesia and Uganda, and they have an app that the farmers get, with which they have to take a photo of the tree, so they can measure the growth of the tree and then calculate how much carbon equivalent it is. So this is the partner we're currently working with, Fair Ventures. And another option is we will buy carbon credits in the future, where they have already done the work. So you buy a ton and we buy these carbon credits from the market. And then our carbon offset is how much carbon we've taken out of the air through buying these carbon credits or through funding these programs that plant trees.
So the price is in Germany, the price is 30 euro per ton, and worldwide we are about 70 US dollar per ton. So is that what you meant, that you want to go into a global pricing for the CO2 exchange?
Well, no. I mean, the global price, they all depend. Like I said, $4, $30. Right now, we set it internally to 20 euros, right? So this is for our carbon free tax, for example. This is the price that we use to calculate things. And we're probably going to raise it. So my suggestion will be 30 euros because that's more realistic now. But this will happen in January with our next regulation. And so the change in price will affect the carbon free tax. So the free tax rates will go up when we increase the price. And this will mean we pay more for the carbon offset to these providers. We increase the amount of money we give them. And yes, it doesn't affect the other markets. You know, all these markets, I just listened to a conversation yesterday or like a conference about carbon markets. They're not really working in a way. There's a lot of speculation there. There's a lot of manipulation. So through a collective regulation of the price, so fixing the price per ton of carbon and regulating it collectively on a regular basis, we provide a much better plan for our partners, so they understand how much they can actually earn per ton. This is really important. As you have markets going up and down, sometimes, you know, projects fail that are now too expensive, and then others make way too much profit. So this is our way to regulate the price of carbon.
Cool.
Okay, Cyril.
Thanks. I just wanted to get back to the Colexa referendum, just for me to really understand it. So for example, if I'm the German government and I want to launch a referendum through Colexa or several, I approach Neco Finance and buy, for example, 5 Colexa tokens, 1 token for X euros, for example. And then I store them, I don't know, somewhere. And then I say, oh, now is the time to do a Colexa referendum. So I use one of these tokens, go to Neco Finance and say, hey, I want to exchange this token against an answer to my question, kind of.
Yeah.
And then the Colexa referendum runs, they get their answer, and then they have like still their tokens minus this token that they use for the Colexa referendum.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly. So the token is, imagine Colexa is a collective intelligence, like an oracle. And in order to get an answer from her, you have to give her a token. And when you give her 1 token, you have maybe 1,000 people you can survey. If you give her 2 tokens, you might get 2,000 people to survey, depending on the size of the survey and also the complexity of the survey. And you can get the answers. So this is how you pay for the knowledge of Colexa. Very good question. Yeah, and companies can use it the same way. They can use it to survey their customers, especially if you already have the information. Like, imagine a good example is pharmaceuticals or COVID vaccines. You know, so all the pharmaceuticals, they test their products in these clinical trials, and then once they release the products, they have no information of what are the side effects, are they effective or not, because they don't know their customers. They have no connection to them. So with our system, because the payment is integrated, we could provide that information anonymously. So, you know, they wouldn't know who you are, but they would get the feedback. For example, was this treatment effective? Were there any symptoms or side effects? And so this is all that information that Colexa has, and these companies could use to get, you know, much cheaper feedback than having a clinical trial. So there's a lot of, I mean, Colexa is still, you know, it's a few years in the future to release, but these are all ideas that we can do. We're creating a new intelligence. Another cool thing is simple questions, like you have a box with sweets, and you want to know how many sweets are in there. You take a photo, you send it to 20 people, and usually the average, the collective average, is about plus minus 1% of the actual number. So you get an answer, but no one else can answer you that quickly. Or you can scientific answers. You can get an answer to scientific questions using the collective intelligence, because a lot of people probably know already answers to certain things that science has not answered, like what is consciousness, for example. So there's a lot of things that we could make really fast. It's not necessarily 100% true, you know, it's always based on, you know, the intelligence of the individual, but usually collective intelligence has proven to provide very accurate answers to even complex questions. Okay. All right. Günther, you're next.
First question, you mentioned that 30%, 300,000 euro of the million are already raised. What is the difference of this 300,000 and the money that we as members paid for buying Necos? What is the difference?
There's no difference. It's exact the money you paid to buy Neko tokens. So it's the money we've raised through selling tokens.
Okay, no difference.
Yeah.
In
total, we have raised 800,000. Yeah. The first phase, the prototype phase, was 500, which we finished last year, and now in this stage, 300 out of the 1 million. And also, guys, so you understand, we are a company that has no debt. So we only start working on a project like building the app once we have the money. Yeah, we're not starting without having the money. We start when we have the money. So in order to go to the ICO, we also have to raise more money, million. And so the goal for us was not to do this through crowdfunding, because we only have like 100 members left. So we can't, and usually the average is like 1,000 or 2,000. That's not going to bring us to a million. So now we're focusing on impact investors. And the goal here is to get large amounts of money, but they also require us to, you know, start with setting up the foundation company. That's why we've waited a little bit with that.
Is it also because nobody can pay more than or buy for more than 25,000 euro at the moment? Because we are something like a crowdfunding?
No, there's no limit.
Oh, there's no limit. The other question, I have the impression that the whole concept with the many token is very complex to explain. So it is something like 3 or 4 different startups. So I think it would be better to hide everything around Colexa for a while, to use it just internally for an insider group, and wait as long as you don't have a team for each of these sub-startups, if I can call it that way.
Yeah, I disagree. So a lot of people are really excited to hear about Stackchain and Colexa, especially investors. They want to see the bigger strategy. A good question that always comes up is, you know, Flo, if you have Neko and people can buy and sell, how do you have a stable basis for growth? And I said, well, it's not the only income source we have. We have 2 other income sources for investors. That's super important. So they really want to see this. And the other thing is, one of our core values is transparency. So we're not hiding things. We want to make sure our community understands what our big vision is. We have a big vision and we want to make sure people get it. Even though I know it's going to take years for all these tokens to be released, and they're all going to be separate legal entities, separate teams. But we already have the products available.
Mhm.
You know Colexa, you see her, you know StackChain, you work with it, even though you probably haven't seen it, because this is under the hood.
Mhm.
But these products are already there. They're already there in a prototype, not finished,
Yeah.
but in a prototype.
Or the
And then it's just for us to wait to the right point when we feel like, okay, now it's stable enough so we can turn it into a product and release it to the market.
Yeah, I understand, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Cyril.
Thanks. I have a very simple question because I spoke with a person recently about Neko, and this person asked me, is there a maximum amount of Neko tokens?
Mhm.
And I didn't know. So I just wanted to know.
Yeah, very good question. So the number of tokens and the price of the token is limited by the reserve. As you know, we have to have at least 10% in reserve. Right now, the reserve is like 400,000 euros. So you can calculate, so the maximum number of tokens in our system would be like 5 million right now. As reserve, but this is not a fixed limit. As the reserve grows, the limit goes up. When the reserve goes down, so it's a changing limit. A lot of people mistakenly think like Bitcoin is a limited, it's a currency where there is where there's a cap as a limit. And it's not true. The Bitcoin, for example, the number of tokens in Bitcoin are constantly growing. Every 10 minutes is a new block that is mined and there's new Bitcoins. But there is a cap at 21 million, which we'll probably achieve in 2140. So they have limited the amount by this algorithm. So the amount is growing at like 2% per year, regardless of demand. So if demand goes up, the system cannot provide more tokens. So what happens is demand goes up, the supply is the same. What happens? The price goes up. So this is what they were hoping, in the end, it will go up in price over and over again. But the reality is, it can also be the other side. Demand goes down, price goes down. In the Neko system, we always balance demand and supply. Very important. So when there is more demand for Neko tokens, we can provide more. Like more people want to buy, we create them. So demand and supply is always matched. And that's why our price doesn't fluctuate. The price, the formula of price in a market system, price equals supply divided by demand. Well, vice versa. Demand divided by supply. And so when there's more demand, the price goes up. If there's more supply, the price goes down. And in our system, demand and supply are always balanced. So the price can stay equal. That's a big difference from Neko to all the other systems out there. Excellent question.
Non, je ne sais pas parce que j'ai une réunion Neko.
Jean-Luc?
Sorry.
I thought you have a question. Okay.
Yeah, yes, but after. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, all right. I need to. And then, so it's still, Günther, you still have your hand up? You still have a question? Okay. All right. Günther, next question.
Before I signed a contract with a startup to help them raise money, I let them answer a couple of questions to check their investment readiness. And a major part of this is the quality of the team, and if the team is heterogeneous enough to build a bigger company. If I would apply this to Neko as a company, there is one genius behind, but not a complete team. And that is a problem if you are speaking to investors. How do you think could you solve this problem? Showing up with a team, for example, with members who are well connected with maybe a lot of input, or a board membership, or something like this?
Yeah, the answer is super simple. I think I mentioned it before. I'm building a Champions League team, right? This takes time because we're testing everyone. So everyone who's currently in the candidate stage has to go through a 1 month, sometimes 2 months test period to see whether they're really the right fit. And we're taking time. So unless the team is final, I'm not going to announce anything. And you're perfectly right. This is why a lot of investors say, okay, this team isn't ready. So yeah, we're not ready yet. We're still in this team building phase. So the reason I decided not to hire earlier is a lesson I've actually learned from my first employer. The manager always said to me, Flo, if you ever build a company, try to stay small. Don't try to grow too quickly because it's going to create problems. And I realized the same problem with my last company. We hired too early, and then things weren't ready, and it was just creating a lot of cost and eating my time. Whereas I could be much faster to do things on my own. You know, there's a proverb, an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So we are now at the stage we have gone fast to develop the prototype last year. Now things are changing. Now I'm hiring people. I'm trying to find the right people that that I can trust, that are experts in the topic, that have competency, that have reputation to join me. The thing is, this organization is different. It's not a normal hierarchical organization. We are a decentralized, autonomous organization where people have authority. Like, there's no CEO. I'm not in charge of everything. I only have certain areas. And if someone takes over marketing, that person is in charge of marketing, right? And has the full.
Sorry, Flo. I'm in a hurry. I have to leave for an outside meeting. Thank you, guys. It was a nice meeting. Hope we shall be more diverse next time with more women. I think it's important to represent the whole of our communities. And see you soon. Thank you. Thanks, and bye-bye.
Thanks for the good questions. Bye-bye. Cyril, you still have your hand up, so up to you. Over to you.
Thanks. Another very simple question. Neko, or the reserve, was rising, was increasing all the time. Therefore, at the collector referendums, we always decided to where to allocate the money we gained. However, if the reserve is decreasing, then we will also decide at the collective referendum where to decrease. Well, what to put money away, from which pillar, right? So it's not only in the direction plus, but we can also decide where to take money away, from Planet People or.
Collector can also decide to lower the price. It has to happen when we fall under the 10%. The first thing will happen, first of all, we try to prevent the situation. We close the reserve. That means it usually doesn't fall under 10%. But this will provide a security mechanism against the panic, the bank run. So this protects us from a bank run, and we've seen it last year, and we had this situation for months. And then we can try to raise the reserve and then reopen the reserve, or we can decide to lower the price of the currency. So to devalue the Neko, which would generate losses for everyone, but that would increase the reserve rate again, and we could reopen. So Collector has the power to control things in both ways, up and down. But obviously, we have this collective interest that it goes up. So it's quite unlikely that it's going to go down unless we really need to. But there could be good situations. Like, for example, we have runaway climate change, and we need much more money in the budget for the planet. Then we could lower the price of the token and create more, increase the budget for the planet. So really give away some profit and reallocate it to another budget.
And my second question, I haven't checked recently whether it has changed, but as we see here, we are 2 English speakers and the rest is kind of German. Is there a German explanatory video already in planning, or is it already done? Because I'm always talking to people and they say, well, I love the idea, but I don't speak English. So I just wanted to ask, is there already something in planning, or am I still continuing to translate?
Well, there is a German white paper, who's done that. Right now, to be honest, to be frank, I don't want to, we have prototype, I don't want to put too much effort into things making the prototype better. When the app is out there, it will be in German and in English. The marketing material will be German, English, and maybe other languages. But right now, prototype, that's why I haven't invested a lot of time making things better. I know there's a few things we can improve. Our email system has some issues. Yes, we're all going to solve these problems when we go public. But right now, my focus is like getting the license. And I want to be focused on this. So, but yeah, obviously in the future, it will be multilingual. We will write everything in German. Right now, it's English. Tobias, your turn.
I have another question around the Collexa system.
Yeah.
Is there the idea that other structures like community, big communities, that they could use the tool of Collexa somewhen, and when is it? And is that a part of the idea?
Yeah, exactly. This is when Collexa, when we have the ICO, when Collexa will become publicly available as a product, as a service, that anyone can buy a Collexa token, a community, and they can manage their community. They can run their community using Collexa, making collective decisions, surveys, referendums, petitions, everything they want to do.
Okay.
And again, it's for private people, it's for politicians, it's for companies. So anyone can use our system, create their own surveys, create their own membership database, survey their own target group, decide, we want to target, let's say, only people in this area of the world or only people in this age, and use our system to do the surveys and detect the answers that they were looking for.
So this will be when the ICO is, or is there some better version to train and to experiment with other partners?
Not yet. Yeah, it's used internally. Once we start developing it, then we will invite a few select groups to be like beta testers, and so they can start a little early, like a year earlier, and then we will release it to everyone. Jean-Luc, bonjour. I cannot hear you, unfortunately.
You don't hear me?
Ah, now I do.
That's
great.
Better. All right. Just one question, because I did a translation in French of the white papers,
Yes.
but you just said that it was only in German for the moment. Does it mean that
I said it's also in German, but yeah, we have a French version too.
Yeah. Okay.
English,
So
German,
I can use it, right? Okay. It's just a good question, because I wondered whether I could use it and transmit it to my.
The white paper is in 3 languages: English, German, and French. But keep in mind, guys, this is the white paper is still, it's a bit outdated. There will be a new version with a lot of updates. So over the last few years, we have learned a few new things that will come in, and also the regulations have changed. So we need to add some additional information, change the white papers. So there will be a new version of the white paper in the next few months that's going to be released. Also, I hope one that's going to be a bit shorter. We'll also release a light paper for the ones who have very limited time, to make it a bit easier to understand.
That was my second question, so you answered already. So there will be an update soon. Another question is, maybe I missed something because I joined you later, but how much is now the overall amount of Necos and money? Maybe you answered to this question.
Yeah, you will see the numbers in the report. We currently have almost 3 million Necos in supply, a market capitalization of over $2 million right now, and increasing because we have an increase in the price.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reserve of around 400,000 euros, which is like 17%.
Okay, and how many members? Still around 500 for the moment?
Yes, total members 666, actually, exactly 666. But active members 410, investors 250.
Okay, thank you. And last question is, I have a friend who wants to come, and I've always some difficulty to explain. Maybe it's you answered to this question before. I'm sorry about that, but how can I answer to someone who said that how can you rise the price of the Neko every 3 months and also do some projects and still have the warranty for the saver to get his money back? It's always, I don't know how to explain very short.
Yeah, I know. That's a problem I have very often. I call it the too good to be true syndrome. People think that we are scammers because what we promise is impossible, but it is possible if you look at the numbers. So how do we generate profit? So the big difference between Neko and other cryptocurrencies is our price doesn't go up based on speculation, like Bitcoin, 1,000 times the same value, but nothing has changed. So the Neko only goes up if the reserve increases. And for the reserve to increase, more people have to buy Neko than sell. And this is the same principle like any stock. It only goes up if more people buy and sell. If more people sell and buy, then it will go down. And then the other question is, how, if everyone would kind of try to get their money out, change it back, this wouldn't work, because we only have a percentage. We only have a minimum, we have a reserve rate of 17%. So everyone, if all of us want to cash out, we would get 17%. That's pretty much clear. So we have there's a fractional reserve system like the banking system, same way. And the banks collapse when you do this. In our system, we don't, because we keep always a minimum of 10. And if too many people try to take things out, we close the reserve and say, sorry, unfortunately, we're not exchanging because we don't want to jeopardize the stability of our system. And then because people know that, there is a clear understanding in our community, okay, in order to make profit, we need to find more people. As long as our community grows, the price goes up. And if it doesn't grow, it stays stable. And there's also no problem with that. If it shrinks, we can actually lower the price. But it does that on a much more stable basis than all the other cryptocurrencies who are doing this on a day-to-day basis, like live trading, up and down, based on demand and supply. We do it once a quarter, and we apply collective intelligence to keep the price stable.
Okay, so if I understand well, the maximum risk that would occur is that everyone would want his money back. So you decide to stop because the reserve is very low. Or as a second solution, you say you decrease the value of the Neko, right?
Yes, we will start decreasing the value.
Okay, so you decrease the value until everyone is get his money back. I mean, what could be shared? I mean, in the rest. Okay, so the risk is well that the value of the Neko would decrease in case everyone wants his money back. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you see, this is the idea of Neko is to be a low risk investment, so a much lower risk than other currencies. And we measure this. You see this on our chart with the market, where it says security. We are the number one. We have never lost value. So the risk is really low, and the system is designed to reduce the risk. And one thing that's really important to understand is, in contrast to most other cryptocurrencies, which are really speculative, so they have no underlying value. Bitcoin has no reserve, no underlying value. The only value it has is what people think it has, what people are willing to pay. And it can easily double in a month if there's someone like Elon Musk saying, hey, we accept Bitcoin. But nothing has changed. And then the opposite happens next month when Elon Musk says, oh, we don't accept Bitcoin. And so this is not how Neko works. In our system, it's not about speculation. It's really about the reserve. If there's enough in reserve to really allow the price to go up. Imagine we have more in reserve, more gold in a way in a reserve. That means we can increase the price of every token because it has increased in reserve. So it actually makes sense. There's an actual increase in value. And that's why we don't see bubbles occurring with the Neko, bubbles that are constantly affecting the crypto market. So the recent crash was another reason. It was, again, a bubble. And it's happening like every year there's another bubble that bursts. The next one is probably the real estate bubble. There was another article today in the newspaper. Everywhere we see these bubbles. And this is something that doesn't happen because it's based on the reserve and we apply collective intelligence to control the price.
Okay, there's just one last comment, not question, but I observe now that the other crypto, like the Bitcoins, are relatively stable, and compare just in the recent days compared to the situation, the overall situation where all the markets are just collapsing. So it's strange that there is not at least a new decrease of the Bitcoin and cryptos.
What we've seen is a collapse in the second quarter. It lost 50% of the value, the entire crypto market. So now they've reached the floor, and this is where it is right now. It's going sideways.
But there is no panic, and people keep their money. I mean, keep their Bitcoins.
Panic has already happened. It was a correction. You know, you need to understand how the Bitcoin or crypto market is highly. There's a lot of players that are just speculators. So how do speculators make money? They make sure that the price goes down, then they buy, drive the price up, and then they sell, so the price goes down again, and they can make profit. Yeah. So the only way speculators make profit is through volatility. And a lot of people use Bitcoin to speculate. It's bots, it's computer programs doing speculation. They just get fed with these algorithms that buy when it's low and sell when it's high. And so this is what's happening there over and over again. And people always fall for the same thing. Oh, it's going up, it's up. Then the average person buys when it's already too expensive. And then the major players, they sell to cash out, make profit, drop the price, and then buy again when it's low. So you will see the same again happening. It's, you know, repeatedly. And it's not the first time. This is happening for 10 years. We're not learning the lessons. No?
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that Neko has the same name as Bitcoin as a crypto money, because the objectives are completely different. Completely different. The opposite of speculation. But okay.
It is a bummer. It's something we struggle with. You know, we have people who say, you do your crypto, stay away. The banks, they put us in one category with porn and weapons and crypto, even though we're doing something positive, and they boycott us. So unfortunately, we have to deal with problems created by the crypto market. And it's also a bit understandable because there has been a lot of scamming in that space. There is a lot of fraud. There's a lot of crime going on, even though we are doing the opposite. This is unfortunately the reputation we get from the market. And when you look at the crypto market and how the cryptos are performing, you see they all look the same. Their charts are usually following the same. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Binance, they're all following the same. Even though they're completely different tokens, they all are subject to more or less Bitcoin leading in the market. And the only one who stands out is us, because we have a completely different scheme, and our chart is completely different from all the cryptos out there. So we're trying to differentiate us as much as possible. We can't help them when people put us in the same box. The more they understand us, the more people really know what Neko is about. They will understand that Neko is different. And I see this in our community, because most of our community are not crypto people. Most of our community, the first and only cryptocurrency many of you guys hold, as far as I know, is Neko. And on the other side, when I try to sell Neko to people who are already like speculating with crypto, they're not really interested, because for them it's something different and not so speculative. So we also don't get too many speculators in our community, which is great. We don't want these people necessarily to be in our community. So it's the way it is right now. I feel like our community I'm really happy with, because it's a community that has values. And I see this when I look at the results of our collector referendums. It has been profit only once. Most of the time it's Planet or Reserve. So I see the values of our community reflected in these decisions, and that makes me really, really happy. And I want to keep it this way.
By the way, what's the percentage of people answering to the votes of Codexa every quarter?
Usually, like on a referendum, you have like 50 people. So for a collective intelligence to work, the minimum is, I would say, 20. 50, which is like of all the active members, a bit more than 10%, 10-20%. All right. No more questions. No. Right, I'll count down. 3, 2, 1. Okay, all right. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you for attending this first Neco Community Conference. We will keep doing this on a quarterly basis. I really enjoyed the questions and the discussion. I was expecting it to take a little longer than I had planned, and it really shows me that you guys are interested, and and I appreciate the support you've done. Looking forward to the next increase in 2 days of our price and the new budgets for the next quarter. And I will keep you posted on our progress, and please, be patient. Things are moving forward. We're moving at the speed that we can maintain. But rest assured, we are moving forward. All right. Goodbye, guys. Have a good day.